Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Lyndon. Thanks so much for having me on this interview. This is exciting.
It is indeed. All right, so I'm going to be asking you 10 open-ended questions. Are you ready?
I am.
All right, here we go. What is your name, job, and where do you live?
Yes. Well, my name is Joshua Hammonds, PhD, and I am a college professor at a small liberal arts school. Rollins College is the name of it. And both the college and my residence are in Winter Park, Florida.
All right, what is the best thing about your job?
Well, the best thing about my job is that every semester I get lots of freedom and autonomy to be able to design the best curriculum that I see fit for the students. And so that's very gratifying for me to be able to have that amount of freedom and control over that. But then equally, I get lots of enjoyment from knowing that after 16 weeks, I have contributed to their knowledge, expanding their perspective, maybe challenging some things that they thought before, or just at least increasing or expanding their knowledge. That's very gratifying for me to know that I can be part of that process.
All right, that sounds like a great job.
Yeah.
What is the worst thing about your job?
Right. Well, I love interacting with students. I love the FaceTime that I get with them. So COVID has been difficult because some of the classes have been virtual. And so I think for me, anything that my job does that I don't get one-on-one time with, or I don't have to, or I don't get to interact with people, can be sometimes tiring and wearing. So, grading papers for hours and hours and hours probably isn't my favorite part of the job. I know it's necessary and I'm certainly more than happy to do it, but I'm far more prefer being in the classroom and spending one-on-one time with the students and interacting with them.
Like whenever you're doing one-on-one, do you basically mean like you have the essay and be like, okay, here's what I would do, like here's what I would improve.
Absolutely. I really think that both the student and myself really enjoy the verbal face-to-face feedback that comes from that, and just looking at a paper and putting red marks and red ink and things like that. Um, I don't think it's the most effective, nor is it the most enjoyable part of my process.
When did you decide you wanted to be a communications professor?
That's a great question. And communications was not my first degree in college. It was actually the fourth one that I picked, but it was somewhere around my junior or senior year of undergrad, and I'm taking a communication course. We had this one professor. We'll never forget him. But he's very dynamic and very excited to be a communications professor. And I remember several of my uh, cohort, several of my peer groups in the class, they would say, Josh, he reminds me of you in 10 years from now. And I could see you becoming a communication professor. And that just stuck with me. And I kept going and going until I finally did become that communications professor. So,
It's kind of like they looked into your future.
yes, they did. They
All
did
right.
indeed.
What general advice would you give to your freshman students?
Right. Well, freshman student who is coming out of high school into college probably has an idea of what they want to study. They probably have a plan of what that would look like, and maybe even a path into a career. But they're going to learn so much in college, and they're going to learn so much from the different courses that they take, that I always remind students to be open-minded about maybe taking a course or two that you didn't necessarily think you were going to take, but you should be open to it. Be open to maybe a minor that you didn't foresee, or even changing your major. I changed my major 4 times. So I always tell freshmen, you might have this plan of where you're going, but that doesn't mean that you're always going to end up there.
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
like you're starting here, but it may lead you a different path.
correct, correct.
What general advice would you give to your senior students?
Senior students. Well, you've spent the last 4 years learning, an academic language, and you've been communicating to many, many professors over the past 4 years, and now you're going to be communicating to a boss for many more years after that. And so it's important that you're doing lots of networking, that you're on LinkedIn, that you're trying to get internships, that you're shaking hands and connecting with people in the corporate world, but then also you're learning that language as well. Not just how to write a 20-page paper for your history professor, but can you write a half-page brief for your public relations firm and the direct report that you have for that, right? Can you switch and do those tasks as well? So just be open to that if you're a senior. be ready for that.
All right. Before teaching at Rollins, did you have any other jobs before that?
I did. I was a professor at SUNY Oneonta. I was there for 6 years. That was my first job out of graduate school. I actually received tenure on a Friday afternoon. I remember getting the letter in the mail. I got my tenure letter. And then on Monday morning, I resigned and took the job at Rollins and started all the way over from scratch. So, but that was my first professional job.
Hmm. What do you love about Rollins College most?
Well, I love the location. We're right in the center of Florida. You couldn't ask for more perfect weather, and 12 months of the year, we're outside. But I also love the small class sizes. My average class size is somewhere between 12 to 20 students. So I really get to know the students very well. I know their names, I know their personalities, I know things about them. And so I can bring that personal touch to the classroom and really kind of lean into that as I'm educating them, and use that as persuasion, use that to help educate and inform to their learning style.
All right. What keeps you motivated during work?
I think just the constant student feedback, right? So if I didn't hear from students on a weekly basis, wow, thanks for that lecture, that was really interesting. Wow, now you're making me think, right? So these little comments that students give me motivates me to keep doing this to my strongest and best ability that I can. And I also love that every 16 weeks we kind of get to hit reset. If something didn't work last semester, you get to change it up completely. You can teach a new class. You can completely turn the class on top of its head and teach it in a completely different way. And so, again, lots of freedom and autonomy in how I design those classes. So that motivates me to keep doing and bringing my best.
If you had to pursue another career, what would it be?
Well, as I said before, I love interacting with people, and so whether I'm educating or persuading students, I think I could probably see myself do that on the stage. So maybe either acting.
Like in theater or film,
I
television?
I think it could be either. I love the live performance of musical theater or live stage theater, so I love that aspect of it. But I think if a door opened up for me to do something in film, I think I'd be open to it. If of course I wasn't already in love with my current profession as a professor.
Great. All right. So if we were to create this documentary fully and not just the interview, by the way, I'm going to stop sharing. What other footage might we might see?
Yeah, I think that's great. I can share my screen and show you some.
Yeah, show us some pictures of Rollins and SUNY Oneonta, and like maybe explaining like what buildings they are.
Absolutely. So here's a first picture of Rollins College, and this is kind of a top view of Rollins College. Over here to the left, we have the Annie Russell Theater, where all of our stage shows and performances are, musicals as well as live theater happen there. And then over here to the right is the chapel. It's a very popular chapel. Almost every single weekend of the year, there's someone getting married in that chapel. Lots of family portraits in that chapel. Every weeknight, there's prayer meetings and things like that. So lots of activity on campus from different religious and spiritual groups. They're using that. So this is kind of a nice photo here. Over here is kind of the bird's eye view aerial shot of Rollins. You can see right here we have a very robust swim team that competes at the national level, Division II athletics. And so right there in front of this, the building right in front of this, is the Student Union. That's the Kathleen W. Rollins Hall. And that's where the students will eat lunch. And there's lots of offices in there where students can get career and professional service help and internship help and things like that. So, and then over here, we've got some dorms and some other buildings too that house classes and things like that.
All right, so basically Rollins in a nutshell.
Yeah. You're asking me what's Rollins in a nutshell?
Oh yeah, what is that in a nutshell?
In so many ways, it's this pristine, beautiful, glamorous college with tons of history, but also forward-thinking professors and forward-thinking students. So we really embrace kind of the historical beauty of it, but at the same time look forward to say, how do we stretch minds to think about the future and the progress? And then here's a picture of my old campus at SUNY Oneonta in New York. And that was a great experience. Learned so much of how to be a better professor there at that college. I spent 6 years there, great training as well
And
there.
then,
And
oh yeah.
then, and then here's one picture, an aerial view of the SUNY Oneonta campus, and it overlooks the Catskill Mountains there. So that was also a pretty campus as well. So I'm attracted to beautiful campuses. I think that's it in a nutshell.
All right. You had a previous picture of Rob. Oh, you already showed the Annie Theater.